Indeed. Well, we're looking pretty good on this side, and I'm really excited about bringing him on, of course, because he's been on the show several times, and we followed him over the past few years in terms of some of the great work that he's been doing, and I'm really excited to bring him on. So, ladies and gentlemen, this brother is a doctor of clinical psychology and a certified school psychologist who specializes in working with parents of African American children who receive special education and or are diagnosed with disruptive behavior disorders. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure and it's an honor to welcome back to the Team DLW Unity Movement one of what I consider one of the most brilliant black minds of our time. Let's give a warm Team DLW welcome to Brother Dr. UMAR Johnson.
Good Garvey Day. Peace and black power. Glad to be with you. Looking forward to seeing my Cleveland family this Saturday at the Liberty Hill Baptist Church, 2 o'clock. It's going to be a magnificent, black excellent day.
Indeed. Indeed. Sister Queen, did you want to greet Brother UMAR Johnson?
Of course. Greetings, Dr. Umar. We can't wait for you to come back to Cleveland. Welcome once again to the Team DLW Unity Movement Show.
Thank you.
Well, yes, indeed. Brother, you talk about the meeting, you being here on Saturday, April 27th, and also in Dayton, Ohio, the following day, April 28th. Can you talk to us a little bit about the message that you're willing to deliver here to the Buckeye State in Ohio?
Yes, indeed. And it'll actually be my first time ever speaking to the community in Dayton the next day on Sunday the 28th. So it's going to be an educational experience for me because I get an opportunity to compare the level of consciousness and seriousness and dedication between the Cleveland black family and the Dayton, Ohio black family. So I'm looking forward to just learning about that new community down there in Dayton, which will be a new family for me. But I would say the 5 major areas that I want to deal with is obviously the school-to-prison pipeline. And one thing that I had just discovered yesterday while at my Ifa Tunde University course, we had class in Wilmington, Delaware yesterday, and we actually visited the school right after the class. But I learned from a fellow educator who was in my course that New York public teachers retirement system, they actually invest in the private prison system as a way to make money for their teacher pensions. And when I heard that, I said, what? He said, yeah. So I decided to do some research on my own. Now, he was speaking specifically of New York, but I said this cannot be limited to New York. So I did some research, and I found out that almost half of the United States, almost half, have pension systems that include the teachers in some cases, police in other cases, judges in some cases, firemen and firewomen, firefighters in other cases, and the entire public employees retirement system that invest in private prisons. And your state, Ohio, and my state, Pennsylvania, are also guilty of this. So I am actually mind blown that I did not know this. I'm not surprised because nothing white folks do surprise me. But I am mind blown that I did not know this up until now. It makes logical sense when we talk about how the music industry invests in private prisons and different major white corporations invest in private prisons. But I never thought to look at the actual teacher pension retirement systems and whether or not they were investing in private prison. And it's just amazing because that's the greatest contradiction of them all. Your job is to make sure these children become successful. Your job is to keep them out of prison. But your retirement depends on the school-to-prison pipeline functioning as designed. Absolutely.
Well, Dr. Umar, let me ask you this. Do you think, of course that's systematic, but do you think that these teachers and the fire department, the police officers, and everybody who's investing in this, do you think that they are aware of this, or do you think this is something that's just been set up by the system to go ahead and assist them without their knowledge of it? What's your opinion behind that?
I believe that it's a 60-40 breakdown. I believe 40% know, 60% don't. And it may be higher than that actually does know. And the reason I say that, as a former public school employee, School District of Philadelphia, you get a newsletter. You actually get a newsletter from the state teachers pension system, and it kind of lets you know what they're up to, what they're investing in. So it's, if you read that newsletter or just keep abreast with it, it's kind of hard for you not to know these things. But, of course, I resigned from the School District of Philadelphia more than a decade ago. I still get the newsletters, but I no longer look at them, but I'm going to start looking at them now that I learned this.
Right.
But a lot of them, the leadership knows, because, for example, in New York, there's a new committee that was just started in either Buffalo, New York, or Rochester, New York, and it is a committee of teachers who are trying to persuade the teachers' unions to influence the teacher pension and retirement system to stop investing in funds that are based upon the accumulation of black prisoners. So, yes, people clearly know, because if they didn't, there would not be a movement to try to stop that in New York. But now, as the black community, we need to be stopping this on a nationwide basis. And one thing that we're going to do with the National Independent Black Parent Association is we're definitely going to start a campaign to not only make people aware of this, but to also expose it and ultimately force the teachers' unions, retirement pension systems, to divest from this system altogether.
Okay. Now, with that being said, Doctor, how can we supplement that as far as if we're going to stop that, what else can they invest in order to continue to have their pension, that financial level not be affected? What else would you suggest that could be an investment other than, well, what we used to consider a great investment in terms of how we can supplement that part of
I got two answers
they're putting that into?
Two answers to that. Great question. The first answer is I could care less. The retirement of white teachers that miseducate black children is of no concern of mine. It's of no concern of mine. And for the black teachers who do a good job educating our children, and for those few white folks who do it as well, my question for the black teachers is, why do we not have our own black national teachers union with its own black teachers pension retirement system? Why are black teachers still dependent on white folk in education to arrange their retirement? So for me, I don't care, because my priority is not retirement for teachers who get summers off, who get the most holidays, who can't be fired for not being able to do their job. Okay, they're not my priority. My priority is our children. So I could care less how they replace that. Now, that's the raw truth answer. The more sophisticated answer is that the prison system is only one investment scheme. All of these large state teacher, firemen, police, judicial, public employees retirement pension systems, they have diversified portfolios, Brother Darrell. So they're not just investing in prison. They're investing in minerals. They're investing in stock. They have a whole bunch of different things. So then the question becomes, if you already have so many different diversified holdings, why did you need to add this one? For me, that's the question. For me, the question is, you got over 50 different things that you're investing in. Why did you have to make one of them the prison? Why not just invest more in some of the other things? Why did you need to invest in this?
Right. And you know what? Maybe I should revisit or readjust my question. Of course, I agree with you. I don't care how some of these teachers are earning their pensions in terms of these white teachers that's just contradictive of our education of our children. But I'm talking about the black teachers. What I meant was the black teachers, the black firefighters, the black police officers that's investing in this, that may not know, that 40% that may not know, or that 60% that may not know that this is what they're investing in. There's got to be something that assisting our people in the development of our communities that they can invest in that will assist their pensions or help their pensions better than what this system is currently displaying. That might have been the question that I should have asked, because I totally agree with you in terms of I could care less. So,
and the thing about it, Brother Darrell, if I could quickly, to me, finding out that teachers whose job is to guarantee success and not failure, to find that police whose job is to protect, not primarily to patrol, and to find out that the court system, the judiciary, the judges whose job is to guarantee justice as opposed to implement oppression, it is baffling from an African-centered point of view to realize that these three professionals, one whose job is to guarantee success of our children, one who is to guarantee protection of them legally, and then another which is supposed to protect their life, they are actually dealing with a financial conflict of interest as it relates to their own livelihood. The judge, by locking up our men, guarantees himself a more comfortable retirement. The police, by locking up our men, guarantees himself a more comfortable retirement. The public school teacher, by miseducating our boys, guarantee that they'll get locked up or end up in front of the judge, guarantees herself a better retirement. Have you ever seen anything more hypocritical or unjust in your life?
Yeah, that whole system. Definitely that whole system. Dr. Umar, I'd like to bring in our sister Queen, my co-host, to get her opinion of this information that I'm just now learning of as well, and I'm sure this might be something new to her. I'd love to get her thoughts and her opinion on this before we continue on. Sister Queen, your thoughts of what Brother Dr. Umar Johnson has just presented to us. What's your thoughts behind that as an educator and knowing that this system has been in place and this is a huge contradiction of the education of our children?
Well, actually, as he was saying it, it made my stomach sick. As a mother, you know, who has children that has matriculated through the system, and one still is too. I used to be an employee at a charter school. I erected a vocational department first as coordinator and then as director. And here in Ohio, I was part of what's called PERS, which he was making reference to, which is, I think it's the Personnel Employee Retirement System. And I had no clue. Of course, that was, you know, maybe 10 years or more ago. It was over 10 years when I worked for the school, but, you know, I never even heard about this. And, of course, I mean, yes, it is a height of hypocrisy. That means that the formula is baked in. I mean, you know, the fix is baked into the formula. We already knew that from with the judicial system, but for it to be actually being done at, you know, financial warfare levels where we're participating in that, hopefully unknowingly, it's effed up, period. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, well, you just did. It's effed up. But, you know, Brother Dr. Umar, what I also is we've actually got a lot of great news to talk about. I want to move on to that in terms of for years now you've been raising funds to get this academy for our young men, and now you've identified an area. You have now, I believe, 3 buildings in the state of Delaware, not too far from where you grew up in Philly, about what you say, about 30 minutes from Philly in Delaware. Yes, you have the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Leadership Academy now. Tell us about the progression that's going on with the academy and where you stand in terms of your plan in getting that open. I believe sometime in August, was it, of this year? Where do we stand with
August of 2019. August of 2019 was going to be the original date, but obviously we don't have enough time to rehab, restore the building, and prepare for class. So I would like, and I don't have a hard date for the start of the school. I want to be clear about that, because you can't have a hard date until the restoration has been done, and the restoration can't be completed until you have enough funds to complete it. So there is no hard date for the start of the school.
Okay.
Ideally, I would like it to be August of 2020, which would be the centennial of the Honorable Marcus Garvey's first international convention. It would also be the centennial of the birth of the red, black, and green flag at that Marcus Garvey convention in New York. So 100 years later would be perfect for us, especially given the fact that Marcus Garvey's Black Star Line Steamship Corporation was actually incorporated in Delaware in 1919. And I don't consider it to be a coincidence that we actually purchased the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy in the same state, 2019, exactly 100 years later. So what we're trying to do now is raise funds, is raise as much as we can. We're asking all your listeners to donate. They can do it electronically by going to cash.me/$FDMG school. I repeat, cash.me/$FDMG school, or they can mail in, check or money order payable to FDMG Academy, P.O. Box 9634, Wilmington, Delaware 19809. That's how they can donate. Right now, we're in a stage of inspections. That's what we're doing now. I have different inspectors coming in, different licensed tradesmen and women, different contractors coming in to give me their assessment of what needs to. For those who saw the live feed yesterday, there's two different ones. The first one in particular of the Frederick Douglass School, I really didn't show too much of the inside of the Frederick Douglass School, but the second one of the Marcus Garvey building, because we have two school buildings right across the street from each other. The Marcus Garvey building is the smaller of the two. So if we are not sufficient with garnering enough funds to rehabilitate the entire campus, which is a $1 million project, then I will be looking to simply renovate and restore the Marcus Garvey building, which is about 1/3 of the size of the Frederick Douglass building. So that would allow us to go ahead and definitely get started with school August of 2020. Okay, so that's from a practical standpoint. From a qualitative standpoint, I would much rather renovate the Frederick Douglass building because it is so huge, so large. It has the lunchroom, it has the gym. We could operate out of the Frederick Douglass building without the use of the other three for several years. So from a qualitative standpoint, you want the Frederick Douglass building up and working. But from a financial quantitative standpoint, we may have to start with the Marcus Garvey building. And this week here is really when I'm going to really find out the nuts and bolts of what the costs are going to be. I've already had a couple of numbers thrown at me, but again, you always want to get more than one estimate. There's people who are going to want to take advantage. There's people who are looking to get paid. There's people who see the fundraiser and they say, well, this guy's capable of raising anything, so we're just going to charge him out the kazoo. I don't want to go through that. I recognize that this burden of this school to finance it and build it and operate it is on the shoulders of our people, and I'm going to make sure I'm doing the best negotiating that I can. But I am hopeful that by May the 1st, I will be able to go ahead and give out a firm number of what it's going to take, for us to at least complete the one building and maybe even reduce that $1 million price to something a little bit lower.
Wow. And Brother Umar, I can't help but to think that there are so many people out there who want to assist you, and they are donating their money. However, in 2016, during the ESPY Awards, 3 of our most celebrated athletes from basketball delivered a speech. They appealed to all the athletes, all the black athletes, in terms of what needs to be done, how things need to, how they need to do more, and how we need to speak out and do something about the violence that's going on and the senseless murders against our people. What I want to do now is play a quick 3-minute clip to remind our listening audience and yourself of this particular incident. And then I have a couple of questions as it relates to that in terms of our black unity. So let me play this clip, and then I'll ask you the question behind it.
Good evening. Tonight is a celebration of sports, celebrating our accomplishments and our victories. But In this moment of celebration, we actually start the show tonight this way. The four of us talking to our fellow athletes with the country watching, because we cannot ignore the realities of the current state of America. The events of the past week have put a spotlight on the injustice, distrust, and anger that plague so many of us. The system is broken. The problems are not new, the violence is not new, and the racial divide definitely is not new. But the urgency to create change is at an all-time high.
We stand here tonight accepting our role in uniting communities to be the change we need to see. We stand before you as fathers, sons, husbands, brothers, uncles, and in my case, as an African-American man and the nephew of a police officer who was one of the hundreds of thousands of great officers serving this country. But Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, Eric Gardner, Laquan McDonald, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile. This is also our reality. Generations ago, legends like Jesse Owens, Jackie Robinson, Muhammad Ali, John Carlos, and Tommy Smith, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jim Brown, Billie Jean King, Arthur Ashe, and countless others. They set a model for what athletes should stand for. So we choose to follow in their footsteps.
The racial profiling has to stop. The shoot-to-kill mentality has to stop. Not seeing the value of black and brown bodies has to stop. But also the retaliation has to stop. The endless gun violence in places like Chicago, Dallas, not to mention Orlando, it has to stop. Enough. Enough is enough. Now, as athletes, it's on us to challenge each other to do even more than what we already do in our own communities. And the conversation cannot stop as our schedules get busy again. It won't always be convenient. It won't. It won't always be comfortable. But it is necessary.
We all feel helpless and frustrated by the violence. We do. But that's not acceptable. It's time to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, what are we doing to create change? It's not about being a role model. It's not about our responsibility to the tradition of activism. I know tonight we'll honor Muhammad Ali, the GOAT. But to do his legacy any justice, let's use this moment as a call to action for all professional athletes to educate ourselves, explore these issues, speak up, use our influence, and renounce all violence. And most importantly, go back to our communities, invest our time, our resources, help rebuild them, help strengthen them, help change them. We all have to do better. Thank you.
And Dr. Umar, with that being said, from those athletes, you have laid the blueprint of them actually doing better. So my question to you is, have any of these athletes from football, baseball, basketball, what have you, who want to do better in their community, have any of these people reached out to you in helping you raise funds for the
Okay, I thought you were still speaking, Bob. Okay, to answer that question, can you hear me? I want to make sure I'm still on with you guys.
You're still on. I think maybe Brother Darryl might have had a technical issue. Darryl, I don't know if you hit mute or not, but go ahead, Doc. Go ahead and continue.
Okay. To answer his question, to this day, I have only received one voicemail from a professional athlete whose name I don't want to call because he's fairly well known and he is an NBA champion. He left me a direct voicemail and he wanted to have a conversation with me about potentially donating to the school. This was probably about 4 years ago. And a cousin of his was a very big supporter of mine. And so she was the one who pulled his coattail and say, hey, you should try to donate to Dr. Umar. That conversation never took place. We played phone tag for a while. Then I think he was out of the country, and then preseason started up. But that he's the only athlete, he's the only black celebrity ever to reach out to me directly to show any interest in assisting. But if you ask the question, what black celebrity or entertainer or athlete has donated to the school, not a single one. Not a single one.
Sure.
And I want to say this. That speech that we just heard, it was beautiful. But let us also be clear that although that speech was made in 2016 and it was a beautiful speech, the very next year, 2017, our brother Colin Kaepernick began with the protest, okay, taking a knee to protest the injustices against black people by not standing up for the anthem. And very few athletes follow suit. And I'm willing to bet some of those same ones who gave that speech probably did not stand with Colin Kaepernick. So we need to look at the hypocrisy in black athletes who will love to give these beautiful words but don't follow them up with deeds. At the end of the day, our black celebrities, singers, actors, athletes, they are some of the most cowardly people in our community, and that is because their livelihood depends on them remaining popular with white people. Let me say it again. Their livelihood depends on them remaining popular with white people. When your livelihood is dependent upon your oppressor's approval, it's going to be difficult for you to get involved in the freedom struggle. That's why during the great days of Motown came of age during the struggles, but how many Motown artists, although we love them all, how many of them actually participated in any of those struggles? They were kept away by Berry Gordy. You had Marvin Gaye and others who still decided that they were going to do what they could to speak up, but their company didn't want them involved. So we got to look at the history of blacks in entertainment, and except for those athletes named in that speech, the Muhammad Ali's and the others who spoke up, by and large, the black athlete and entertainer has been complicit in the oppression of black people by not speaking truth to power.
Right. And I do apologize for the interruption there. Blog Talk sometimes has a mind of its own, and sometimes I wonder if other influences are in control of our show. But anyway, with that being said, Dr. Umar, I got the gist of what your answer was on that, because this is where we have to show our black unity, where the dollars are available from these athletes, from these entertainers. That's where, as I said, you have the blueprint for being able to assist us in what needs to be done by having the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Leadership Academy and that campus, all that you have there. You need the dollars. They have the dollars. So it only makes sense that even if some remain anonymous, that the assistance should come from some of these athletes and entertainers. And that's one of the problems that I have with our black unity, that it's not enough of it. We have it in clusters, but we need more. We need more of it. When we have brothers like yourself who have the vision, that have the opportunity, that's in position to assist our black children and our people, there are other people that have the means to assist you. And I would like to see that a little bit more effectively across the board and more unity in terms of that. Now, with that being said, of course.
Can I make a comment, Brother Bill?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Sister Queen.
On this topic, yeah. Number one, I would like to say that what I agree exactly with, what you said, and it's unfortunate that Dr. Umar said only one out of a whole plethora of celebrities, entertainers, and athletes have reached out to him, and none have actually made a single donation. I find that is crazy. But, the same issue with the retirement system and the people who are controlling the money of those people, they're mostly all white folks. So their managers, their accountants, and all, the people who are advising them are likely white folks. That's number one. Right. And number two, the good doc said that a lot of them are cowardly because their livelihood depends on the popularity with white audiences, or white people. But I also say that's true for everyday black folks that work a job or work in corporate or work anywhere. Like, folks are, even at our level, experience, being scared because their dollar and their livelihood is attached to, a white man writing a check. Even with the brother Colin Kaepernick, it's my understanding that he took a settlement from the NFL for $10 million. And after all of that, I think Nike gave him like $30 million. But after all of everything, I mean, what do y'all think about him, settling for $10 million? Was it even, worth all of the movement and all what happened? I mean, do y'all think that was a sellout move, or was that the right thing to do?
I'll give you my opinion. The contract with Nike, I did not appreciate that because I felt, given what he stands for, he should not have allowed a major white racist American corporation that has already exploited black people enough to exploit his situation for corporate gain. I didn't appreciate that. However, I don't take issue at all with his $10 million settlement with the NFL. And the reason I don't take issue with that brother stood up for us, and we did not stand up for him. I don't mean the community per se, but the community of African-American athletes of all sports who basically abandoned our brother and didn't do anything to guarantee that he continued to make a living doing what he do best, and that is play football. So as far as I'm concerned, that settlement from Nike was simply, a retributive form of justice to the brother, to give him what he would have earned had he still been allowed to play football. So I don't take issue with the settlement with the league. He was entitled to that. But I do take issue with his contract with Nike. And I would also say that I take issue with coons like Stephen A. Smith and some of these other people on TV, the analysts, who criticized Colin Kaepernick for taking an NFL settlement. What are you criticizing him for? He took a stand and you didn't back him up. How dare you criticize that man when you refuse to support him? Criticize yourself. At least he took a stand. You've never taken one yet. Right. How dare a coward who refused to join the struggle criticize the man who actually joined the struggle for how he bowed out of that struggle? You have no right to speak on the Colin Kaepernick situation if you did not support him. And so for me, people like Stephen A. Smith and those other coons on TV who never speak anything of justice regarding black people, they have no right to criticize that brother. He took a stand. He got nowhere with it because his fellow athletes were cowards, and the NFL gave him a package, which I think he should have taken, so he can take care of himself and his family. I had no problem with the NFL settlement. I did have a big problem with the Nike contract.
Well, I actually I'm kind of reversed on that. I had somewhat of a problem with the NFL contract because, with the settlement, NFL settlement, because that $2 million was only a fraction of what he stood to make had he not taken a stand, and that did cost him. I look at it as Nike giving him that deal. They gave him what he deserved from the NFL. And they also let the NFL know that Nike is bigger than the NFL because they didn't follow suit with the NFL. They didn't care that the NFL was trying to blackball him. They said, we're going to make him the face of this corporation because the NFL is only in maybe 3 or 4 different countries internationally, big here in the States, but not so big in other countries. But Nike is in 100 and some odd countries, and it is a multi-billion-dollar business, much larger than the NFL. So yeah, I thought Nike took up the slack of what the NFL should have done, and I was happy.
That was for benevolent reasons, though, Brother Darrell. Nike didn't do that for benevolent reasons. That was a marketing scheme.
Yeah, of course. And for whatever reason it was, I still think that what it did was it was a slap in the face to the NFL, because the way I look at it and the way a lot of people looked at it was Nike didn't care that the NFL felt that way, that they were trying to blackball him. And besides,
because they were going to make
him taking
money.
that stand, I understand. I totally get that. And, with that being said, I thought that it was a great deal. Even with all things given, I think Colin came out on top of it, with the exception of the rest of the black athletes standing behind him. I was expecting a lot more than just a hand-picked few to stand with him. I was expecting a lot more unity amongst our black athletes. I was expecting our black athletes to come out together and kneel with him. What I wanted to see is every black athlete on each team systematically come out and kneel, started the national anthem, and once the whistle blew, they got on the field and played the game of football. But during that time of the national anthem, I was expecting, I was hoping, I was praying that we would stand together unified. That would have been the most ultimate statement that we could have made as athletes to support this man, to let the world know that systematically we're not going to continue to stand for what all these injustices that we are facing have presented to us. That's what I wanted to see. But Brother Umar, you want to say something else?
Yeah, I was going to say, just as a quick point, someone receiving financial restitution for wages that had not been appropriated is totally acceptable for them to do that. You get fired, you lose your job unjustifiably. They give you a token, a financial token of justice for those wages that you could no longer earn. There's nothing wrong with accepting that. It's almost a form of reparations. With Nike, though, what I saw was the capitalization, the financial capitalization upon a wave of protests and revolt that is not only sweeping black America, but is sweeping the entire world. And I saw the Colin Kaepernick situation as an opportunity by Nike to rebrand itself in such a way that they're no longer just seen as this giant, white, Eurocentric mega corporation, but that now as a corporation that is sympathetic to the protester. In other words, we're going to tap into a new market of customers. We're going to tap into a new market of customers that was previously unavailable to us. And that new market of customers are going to be African revolutionaries, second and third world youth and adults who don't like the way in which the American, British, French power structure is bullying the other nations around the world. To me, it was a brilliant, Machiavellian financial move by Nike. But it was totally exploitative, and no good could come from that. All they did was widen their market to sell sneakers.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree. Brother Umar, before we move on to the next topic, I want to bring in a caller. This brother is Yonael, and you're on the Team DLW Unity Movement with Dr. Umar Johnson. You have a question or a comment? Go right ahead.
Well, I just got your link earlier, Dale, and I just thought I'd just call in and see what's going on. It's been, a couple of years since I was there in Ohio, sit down and talk with you, Dr. Umar. I think it's been probably longer than that since you and I met in Atlanta, I think over at the Shrine of Black Madonna, someplace or another. But anyway, both of y'all, I'm just chiming in just to lend my support. I heard the conversation earlier about what's happening with the mindset of the black, I guess you say I don't know how to identify these supposedly talented entertainers, these athletes. But, you know, we have to look at the idea that they've all been brainwashed, and, you know, for everything you talked about with them, what Colin is doing and all of that power play, I look at the situation and see what Dr. Johnson is doing with trying to put together the school, and the problem he's had with the everyday person trying to donate some money to him. And we can see that all those people have been programmed. But you look at the pinnacle, what I see is something like somebody like Oprah, who just built a school in Africa. Well, hell, she could cut a check and take care of that school here in her own country. I ain't heard nothing from her. So we see that whole mindset
and just
of the programming.
Just to interject quickly, if I could, not only did she do that, she just gave a white man $5 million for an LBGT school down in the South. $5 million to a white man she don't even know for a gay school down in the South.
Wow.
Right. Well, our brothers and sisters are being shot down the street every day. And so you see what I'm saying? So when we see this, we talk about a mindset of people who understand that we're on, like you said, we're on a struggle. People talk about being revolutionary. We talk about this war. We didn't start this war. The war started against us. And all we're doing is finally coming into the revolution saying, hey, you know, we're tired of being shot, murdered, and killed. We're going to go ahead and start defending ourselves. And education is the key. Without that, I was watching the video, Dr. UMAR. Like I said, I saw your video we walking through. That was really a good presentation. Anybody who hasn't seen it, they really need to take the time to sit down and go through that about the mindset, about how well conceived the ideas, the mission is there, and what we have to do, and building that foundation of how we need to move forward. So what I'm saying is that, you know, with everybody trying to get a situation where we're trying to move forward, they program us. Right now, we've got a reality show president, this man up there who's acting crazy, committing all of these crimes in front of openly out in front of everybody, and everybody's talking about that. I didn't hear any of these black politicians stand and say, hey, it's time for us to go ahead and call this man to task when they got our brothers and sisters going to jail for traffic tickets, spend months and years in jail for, you know, getting shot and killed because you didn't have a tail light on your car, but they can't bring that man in. So when you look at that mindset, I think it's you know, we can see that, you know, there's only certain ones of us, and this is the time where we're all being called to identify who we are and be able to stand together. Because the problem isn't so much that the masses, the black masses aren't together, but those of us who are in this conversation, are working together. The inner court, it's time for us to come together and start really preparing, supporting the school and other things we have, our projects, where we can actually make this thing start happening. Whether people want to get on board or not, we'll be able to fund it ourselves. I've seen that coming. I see it coming this year. By the end of the year, this year, Dr. Johnson, I'm convinced that you'll have everything you need to move forward with that school. So I like to make that prophecy so we can all see it doesn't come to fruition by the end of this year. And I just look forward. I want to be there so when it's open. I definitely want to be there on the day that you open that school. And with that, I'm going to stand back and listen to the rest of the conversation because y'all doing a fabulous job. I just want to chime in and say, Daryl, with the job you're doing, Dr. Johnson, both of y'all keep up the good work and give you my full support. Peace and blessings.
Thank you for that. Brother Daryl, real quickly, I want to say this. It is not the job, although they could do it in a heartbeat, it is not the job of the black celebrity class to save black America, nor have they ever saved black America. With the exception of Muhammad Ali and a few others, largely our struggle was carried on by the grassroots level. It was never the entertainers that delivered any tangible changes to black America. See, we got to recognize that we are a $2 trillion people. We are richer than all of the black celebrities put together. Black America is richer than our black celebrities. So we don't need them to bail us out. We can bail ourselves out. Is it a shame that they don't want to play a role in it? Yes. Is it despicable that they cannot be counted upon? Certainly. Isn't it a travesty that these rappers and athletes will go to a white-owned mall and spend millions of dollars on clothes? They'll go to a white-owned nightclub and spend $1 million in one night on liquor and alcohol, but they won't even contribute 10% of that much to the education of our children? It's totally unacceptable, but we've never really gotten their help, so there's no need to start looking for it now. If we can buy this school, we can renovate this school. And I'll be honest with you, my faith in us being able to do this has been purely off of the purchase of the school, because it took me a year and a half to finally force the sellers to give me that building because we could not afford it. We did not have the $1 million that they wanted for that school. And the fact that after 18 months of pestering them and staying on top of them, they finally capitulated to accept the school for the funds that we had, to me, that was a miracle. And to me, that signaled to me that the ancestors and the Most High and the universe is actually pushing for us. So I'm just going to stay the course, as the elder said, and we will definitely get this job done.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that as well, Brother Umar. It's going to take time. It's going to take the effort of, as you said, many people who are at the grassroots level, many people who share the same idealisms as you, a lot of the Garveyites. And speaking of the Garveyites, I was listening to an interview that you had with a mutual friend of ours, and that's Desiree Benson. Wonderful interview that she had with you just recently. And in the beginning of the interview, you spoke very highly of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, the organization, of course, that Marcus Garvey started in 1914 and brought to the States in 1918. I'm not sure if you are aware, but recently I've been appointed as the president of the Division 133 here in Cleveland, and we are looking to revise that particular division here in Cleveland. And I really appreciated a lot of the kind words that you spoke upon when you started out with the UNIA. I was wondering, in the future, are you looking to revisit your alliance with the UNIA in terms of working with a number of the other divisions and possibly the Cleveland division once we're at the level to where we want to be in terms of working together in order to help our people here in Cleveland? Is that something that you might be looking at doing sometime in the near future?
Absolutely. I have never ceased to be a member of the UNIA ACL. My membership had never ceased. When I speak of having been a member in the past, I'm speaking specifically of Division 121 of Philadelphia, and I'm speaking specifically of my position as Minister of Education of the parent body, as well as First Vice President of the Philadelphia Division. But in terms of being a rank and file member, I have consistently been that since I joined the UNIA back in approximately 1997. So yes, that's definitely something I would be willing to help out any UNIA division. Now, of course, we'll probably need to have a conversation off air about the splits, because I don't know if you know or not, there's about 3 UNIAs now. You have UNIA Incorporated, you have UNIA, the government, the UNIA ACL, and then you have UNIA ACL August 1929 of the world. And I actually lived through that split, by the way, Brother Durr. I lived through it because it took place right here in Philadelphia while I was Minister of Education, when a certain individual in Washington, D.C. started throwing people out of the group as a way of protecting his future bid at the president generalship. So I'm actually going to write a book about my history in the UNIA, and I'm actually going to have a chapter in my upcoming political autobiography, because the UNIA is very near and dear to me. I grew up in it. My speaking career began in the UNIA. That's how I got discovered. My first invitations was through the UNIA. So I would always be willing to help any division, regardless of which splinter it belongs to help push the works of Marcus Messiah Garvey.
Absolutely, and I'm well aware of the split. I've worked hand in hand over the past year and a half with the President General of the last 32 years, Mr. Cleophas Miller, in order to revitalize the UNIA in the city of Cleveland, the Division 133. So I'm well aware of it and understand, and we'll definitely have to have that conversation as it pertains to the work that we're doing here and looking to do nationally and internationally. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about before we continue to give more information about how people can donate to the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Leadership Academy. I wanted to touch on the protection and respecting of our black women. Of course, we know there's many entities within our own people and within the police force and other entities that are against us that have attacked our women and children. As a black man who is doing great work, not only in just your community, but nationally and internationally, what can you say to other brothers out there as it pertains to making sure that our women and our children, mostly our women, stay protected and respected from all of these other entities? Our brothers, basically, as I feel, our brothers need to step up and step out and make sure that they make sure that these women feel protected and make sure that they stay respected in order for these queens to do their thing. If you're speaking to other brothers out there who feel that you feel, that I feel, that many of us feel that need to step up to make sure that this happens, what would be your words to them?
I believe that the black community needs to start having dedicated security meetings and dedicated security officers. And I believe that there should be a hotline or a method of confidential communication where if a black woman has to go outside alone at night or a black female child has to come home from school or college at night, that they should be able to get a free escort, a brother who will go and pick up that elder, pick up that mother, pick up that princess, and take them safely back home. Our sisters have no one to go to for protection except the same people who are most responsible for the lack of protection, and that is the police. For a black woman to feel like the only number she can call is 911 when her safety is at risk, that's a problem. And that is a shame on all of us as black men, that our sisters don't feel comfortable enough to call on us for security, that they would rather call on the beast. And I think the black community needs to start having those meetings, conversations, security protocol, not just training our sisters for the military. They need that as well, self-defense training, of course. But that's not a guarantee you're going to always come out on top just because you've been, skilled in the art of self-defense. We need a vehicle, a protocol, a process by which black women can reach out whenever they are in need of support, even in the spot. You saw the situation with the sister in Dallas, Texas, where she was abused and assaulted by that white devil who pulled a gun out on her and then proceeded to punch her all in the face, threw her phone on the ground, wouldn't even let her make a call. Okay, she should have been able to call someone. She should have been able to just speed dial really quickly, and it should have been 20 brothers right there to meet her. We need that type of a situation, almost like our own Uber. Right. We need our own Uber service for security. So when a sister is in distress, she can hit a button just like Uber, and a brother can see where the sister is, and every brother in that area rallies to her defense.
Exactly. I'm all for that. I'm definitely down for that. Brother Umar, Sister Queen Angela Sells has an additional question for you. Sister Queen.
Thank you. I love that idea right there, though. I'm writing that down.
Right on.
So, Brother Umar, my question is in the context of independent institution building. You're building an independent school. It's tough. I'm also building several institutions, one being a black-owned grocery food co-op store here in Cleveland. And, with our institutions having access to international networks and components that are ingrained in our organizational models, what is your perspective on engaging institutions like the African Union and the RECs, the Regional Economic Commissions throughout Africa, for advocating policy that promote engagement from the diaspora, with regard to, reparation, compensation, damage caused by colonialism, and and including the diaspora in things such as the Conference of Intellectuals of Africa and the Diaspora, and there's a political action to encourage and support the adoption and implementation in different diaspora countries of policies that will facilitate the elimination of racism. Do you feel, I know I said a lot, but to put it in a question, do you feel that national governments, nation states have a role to play in adopting and implementing policies to eliminate racism, and that includes the diaspora and political, social, and economic cooperation, within the continent? And can we do that while maintaining independence? Or do we need to do all of our independent institution building on the ground?
No, absolutely. They have a role and a responsibility to helping to reduce racism in African communities outside of Africa. They have a role towards helping to foment and build policy for African communities outside of Africa. That is exactly what the United States government does. That is exactly what the French government does. That is exactly what the Chinese does, and the Belgians do, and the British do it. It's called international relations, and it's called foreign policy. International relations and foreign policy. And that's when they flex their muscle and they flex their political clout towards influencing the behavior of other nations. That's what the international world is all about. What is Trump doing? Trying to influence the behavior of Kim Jong-un and the president of this country and Russia and this and that. And America loves to tell other countries that you're not treating certain groups correctly. And then they'll send the CIA in there and foment rebellions in order to change policy. Africa should be doing the same thing. The problem with that is African nations are politically weak. That's the problem. African nations are politically weak. Too many African nations are debtor states. They depend on the white man for sustenance. How can I tell the white man to treat my brothers and sisters in America better, or treat my brothers and sisters in Canada better, or treat my brothers and sisters in Central and South America better when I'm dependent on them for food, for health care, for infrastructure? And this isn't the fault of the African nations. Okay, this is the residual effects of neocolonialism. When the white man left Africa, he left Africa with nothing. And on the way out the door, he gave the new African leaders an offer that they couldn't refuse. The white man said, listen, you have your independence. I'm leaving. But since I built all the institutions that you have, and of course they built them for themselves, not for us, but since I built all these institutions, I'm going to destroy them. And if you don't want me to destroy them, you're going to have to agree to pay me for the institutions that I built to exploit your mother country. And so a lot of African leaders saying to themselves, what is our option? They're either going to destroy the infrastructure of this country, which we need to get started, or we're going to have to pay them a debt for them leaving it. It was totally an unjust decision to make. It was totally an unfair set of options that was put before African heads of state, but that's exactly why Africa is in debt to the West to this very day, because they were forced to pay the white man for creating the infrastructure that actually robbed Africa. And that's why I'm saying that I believe that the only solution to this white supremacy is for there to be an international Pan-African revolution. We have never had that. We've had nation-by-nation revolutions. We've had black revolts. We've had revolts in the UK. We've had riots, but we have never had a coordinated, comprehensive, collaborative, international revolution by African people on every continent rising up simultaneously at the very same minute to throw off the yoke of white supremacy. That is going to be World War III, and that is going to be the only solution to our liberation.
Wow. All right. Did that answer your question, Sister Queen?
Well.
Wow.
Yeah, that touched on it, definitely. Oh, my goodness.
Indeed.
All right,
Indeed.
well, I guess let me just put in one follow-up, because that's deep, because that means we got to shed some blood, period. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Oh, you're going to have to shed blood. You're going to have to shed blood. And the irony of shedding blood,
right.
I mean, let's be realistic here. I'm not trying to die. I have 2 daughters. I have my mother. You're not trying to die. Brother Darrell's not trying to die. No one wants to die prematurely. But we also recognize any serious student of history must admit that there has never been a serious change in the narrative of a people. There has never been an elimination of oppression anywhere on earth at any time without bloodshed. And if you are a Muslim or a Christian or a Hebrew, if you are an African traditionalist, if you are of any religion except the Buddhists, every religion on earth believes that there is a blood price to be paid in order for there to be a change in one's spiritual or material reality. I mean, if you're Christian, you believe that God sent his son on earth to die for the remission of your sins. So if the Son of God has to die in order for you to be born again, if Jesus had to shed blood to give you life, what makes you think we don't have to shed blood to give our children a life?
The day of resurrection. Yes, yes, indeed. Sister Queen, any other questions?
Yeah, but I'm full right now. I'm full. Thank you.
Indeed. Brother Umar, it is always a pleasure to have you on the Team DLW Unity Movement. As I said earlier, my brother, I consider you one of the most brilliant black minds of our time, and you displayed that in full detail and array today, and I thank you. Please give our listening audience that information about the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Leadership Academy if they're looking to donate funds or if they're looking to assist in any kind of way. How can they get in touch with you, and how can they donate towards the school?
Absolutely. 4 quick announcements. The first one, Dr. Umar Johnson will be back in Cleveland this Saturday, April the 27th, 2 p.m., Liberty Hill Baptist Church on Euclid Street. Doors will open up at 1 o'clock. All children free, all elders free. Tickets at drumarjohnson.com. You can also get your tickets at the door. Bring your resume. If you would like to work at the school, bring your resume to Liberty Hill Baptist Church this Saturday at 2 o'clock. Also, Brother Darrell and Sister Queen, I am beginning to work on the shockumentary. The long-awaited Dr. Umar documentary is now in the works, and my film team just so happens to be from Cleveland. So if there's any parents out there who have a testimonial in the Cleveland area about a situation that they saw a black male go through, special education, miseducation, juvenile incarceration, police brutality, psychological frustration, extermination, misdiagnosis, ADHD, psychiatric meds, IEP, discipline school, any story you have that you think our parents need to know about, come on out Saturday at 2 o'clock so we can sign you up, because Dr. Umar will be coming back to Cleveland to interview all those parents who want to be a part of the documentary, which will be called the Shockumentary, White America's War Against Black Boys. And if you want to donate to the school, please mail your check or money orders payable to FDMG Academy, P.O. Box 9634, Wilmington, Delaware, 19809, or bring your donation with you Saturday. Bring the donations to the church on Saturday. I hope everybody that comes out to the lecture on Saturday will bring a donation to the school.
All right. All right. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. That is Dr. Umar Johnson, Prince of Pan-Africanism. And again, Dr. Umar, we look to see you next Saturday, April the 27th, at the Liberty Baptist Church, Liberty Hill Baptist Church. Thank you very much, sir. You enjoy the rest of your day of resurrection.
God bless.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, you are still tuned in to the Team DLW Unity Movement here on the J. King Radio Network with your host, Mr. DLW, and Sister Queen, Angela Sales. We were just speaking with the Prince of Pan-Africanism, Dr. Umar Johnson, who will be in Cleveland next week. And, hey, great interview, great job. We're going to take a moment and We're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna go to the phone lines and get your thoughts and your comments about a number of things that Brother UMAR, Dr. UMAR Johnson, just spoke upon, and we're also looking to bring in Mr.